My business felt really stuck and stagnant. That's how I was feeling. My business was doing well on the outside. Everybody, that's kind of what people would assume, but my personal life was not really feeling that way. And so bleeding into my business where I was feeling like I love my clients, but I just wasn't getting to the next level where I really felt like I've hit my stride and that I was where I felt like I wanted to be.
Before I went through the Easy Money program, I had just come out of one of the biggest launches in my business. And the weird thing for me was I'd come out of that and hit all these big goals and financial, success and everything. And I was feeling so flat and so just nothing, actually. I was just feeling really kind of numb. And the Easy Money program came along at a time where I was like, this isn't bringing me joy. This, doing more money, doing bigger launches is not making me happier. In fact, if anything, it's made me feel flat at a bit of a point of thinking like, business isn't going to bring this. What do I need to change in me to bring in more joy, more energy, and actually be enjoying? It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying the business, but it wasn't feeling sustainable. And so, when the Easy Money program came along, I was just so in that point where I was like, okay, I've hit this point. Now what for me? How am I going to enjoy this and actually in some ways want to be getting up and continuing to grow the business? Because it was, I guess I'd maybe almost falsely been waiting for that to fuel me. And as I saw it grow in success, it was very clear that that wasn't going to come from the business.
Before I started the Easy Money program, I was really stuck in this mindset that I had to work really hard to earn money. I was living off this frenetic, frantic energy, and I was probably a chronic overachiever. I was frazzled. I had really entrenched beliefs that in order for my business to be successful, I had to make sacrifices in other areas. So my sleep, my general well-being, time with my family. So I was really struggling. It was difficult. And I felt this constant sense of being overwhelmed and feeling out of alignment. I just didn't feel like, I knew sort of what I was wanting to do and what I was wanting to achieve, but how I could achieve that. I used to call it soulful success. And I felt like what I was doing was the complete antithesis. There was no soul in the success. I was getting, external measures of success, which was great. But the reason it felt out of alignment was because it wasn't soulful success. Like it was sacrificed success.
I got to this point in my business where I wasn't the person that I was when I started my business, which was all around this mission on, I wanted to hijack the traditional family, maternity, and engagement photo session into something that tells the story of what that family or couple looks like today and really preserve that. That was really important to me. But fast forward to today, well, before Easy Money in my business, I was just stuck on this launch factory. I started showing up, teaching about marketing and trying to fix all the problems that photographers were having rather than showing up and being the voice that started the company to begin with. And I was just stuck and totally lost at what to do next and how to take what really excites me and lights me up and actually put it into something that made me money along the way. Because I think that I believed that I couldn't do that to make money, I had to just serve and answer all the questions that were coming at me that weren't really me.
Before the Easy Money program, my life and business were complete chaos. I definitely had a lot of relationship issues. I had a lot of issues with setting boundaries with work. I was working all the time and not charging enough for what I was doing. And I also knew deep down, I really wanted to be doing something different, but I didn't even really know quite what that looked like. So I had a lot of blocks, I think, in my life, and I had a lot of frustration. I was super tired. I was working 70, 80 hours a week, not giving myself a break, not valuing what I was doing, and really chasing my tail in all aspects of my life.
If you ask anybody from start to finish, what the biggest area of growth has been, it's definitely been in my confidence and has been in my ability to really select the people that I want to hold on to in my life. And that is a huge gift that I've given to myself for sure, and given to my clients, because they're able to see a different side of me that I wasn't really able to or willing to show of myself.
The program helped me connect with me, inner child, my inner voice, whichever way I want to look at it, in a really easy way to actually go, this is what I wanted. This is what she wanted. And getting honest also about that if I'm not being in that, then I'm going to feel disconnected. I was able to see the behaviors of when or why I was getting drained or not lit up. And it was helped me, I guess, reclaim some of those areas from when I was really young. I mean, things that I was so into or things that were inherently me as a child, and start to see like, those are the things that are missing from the business, or missing more specifically from my life. Or one of the many ways that has come through for me is getting really honest, for example, that creativity was really not coming in my business anymore. And it was a key thing. I mean, creativity, expressing myself, these were what I used to do as a child. And as the business had grown, I was spending more time on like managing a team, showing up for clients. And what was happening specifically for me is I wasn't blogging, I wasn't getting on video. I actually wasn't even getting like any content of my own. I was starting to look around and think what I should be doing. And I think that is the biggest gift that it's given me, as far as coming back and realizing, taking the action of actually creating space for that. It just was getting on the bottom of the to-do list, I guess, and never getting there. Once I realized that was a core piece of me and a core value, I can bring that back into the business, and it's just kind of made me love it again.
So I think the biggest transformation since completing the Easy Money program was that I have totally reframed my money mindset. I have allowed myself to earn money literally easily and effortlessly. My understanding of abundance has totally shifted. And I guess the most powerful thing that I got out of the program was learning who I am, like really not at a superficial level, but at a really soulful level, who it is that I am and what living, I've always talked about living a life full of ease, grace, and abundance. And I think I sort of superficially had an understanding of what that was, but now having done the work, and there were some really tricky moments, unearthed some really big, ugly things that I would have probably have preferred not to look at. But ripping that Band-Aid off, I feel like it's now healed, and had I not ripped that Band-Aid off, if I hadn't gone through, like there were times where I used to think, why am I doing this? I volunteered to do this program, like a self-induced form of pain at times. So I will be honest, there were challenges, but now I feel I'm out the other side. It has been, I get emotional thinking about it. It is such a blessing. Yeah, and I do feel, that I have such a greater awareness of who I am, and I know that's going to have a ripple effect. The fact that friends are noticing how I'm different. My husband has certainly noticed big differences, and things between us have skyrocketed, and there has been no other reason to explain that. Just I think the fact that I have invested in me and I've got a greater understanding of who I am, and I'm letting, as we talked about in the program, letting her shine. My light it feels free to radiate now, because I think before there were filters, like that light was trying to come through, but because of limiting beliefs and because of experiences that I hadn't processed, I think that sort of put a filter over my light shining, whereas now that light is there. It emanates.
After doing Easy Money, when each program or each phase had its own takeaway that has just been gold. And I remember in phase 1, really diving into myself, I learned so much more about myself than I I never would have looked at otherwise. That's for sure. And oh man, I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it, because it's like, I could go through my day to day now and see my behaviors in a much more aware and mindful way. And it's so much when I see myself feeling this sense of overwhelm, or I don't know what to do next, or just the irritability that I would get sometimes when I'm with my family, when I'm like really on fire creatively and I want to be doing my own thing. I can get back to my center so fast because I'm recognizing what's triggering me. And it's so much easier to overcome that. And then just looking back at some of the old things from my past that have created some of those beliefs and those judgments and all those things, I'm able to heal myself, which is like, I have constantly spent so much money over the past few years on coaching and strategists and all these things on the outside that I finally feel like I can heal myself by myself in a way, which is like priceless. So that's the biggest takeaway for me.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
I know, me too.
After going through the Easy Money program, it was really cool because I kind of got to define like what it was I wanted to do and the type of person that I am, which I think I had a hard time defining before. And I felt like I had no clue what I wanted to do or like why my life wasn't going the way that I wanted it to go. So just in doing the Easy Money program and figuring out like I actually do know what I want to be doing and I actually do know who I am was just life-changing, to be honest, like completely life-changing. So since then, I've been able to kind of figure out the direction I want to move in. I've been able to set a lot better boundaries in my life. I've gotten really clear on what I want to allow and what I don't want to allow. I've started working a lot less. I've started charging a lot more, and my life has completely changed.
And the thing that stuck out to me that was really different was the mind-body connection. So I've done a lot of work, a lot of personal development, dealt with a lot of, my shit that I thought I should have already done by that point. And the real connection for me happened when I realized that I had done it all logically, but I just hadn't felt it. And that was the biggest difference just in the free stuff. And so once I got that, I realized that I had kind of not done it all wrong, but just done it completely differently. And this was something new that I hadn't seen. And I was really ready at that point to make a commitment to myself more than anything. It had nothing to do with anybody else or anything that really pushed me into it. It was just me ready to make a commitment to me.
One of the key things of going through the program was, for me, it came through a really good lens of being an entrepreneur to start with. So it helped me see my own patterns in things like, for example, maybe where I might compare to other people or where I might be jealous of other businesses or, things like that. It was just so specific to being an entrepreneur, which allowed me just through that different lens, like different way of looking at things, to really come back. Of course, it's nothing about business, to really come back to what are the core pieces that need healing, improving on, looking at is probably, the fair thing to say there. And so having that as the tool, I guess, enabled me to go deeper in what's really going on for me. What do I really desire? And so, it was a process for a couple of months of actually breaking those things down, being honest, looking at me. I mean, it became nothing about business, right? After a month or so, it's like, what do I want? What do I, really listening to me.
I think that anyone needs this type of work. Honestly, like everything I've done, I mean, you name it. I've done like seminars, I've done self-help books, I've read every book you could imagine. I have like all the Spirit Junkie this with Gabby Bernstein. I mean, I've done it all, and none of the work that I have seen or tried to identify with has helped me establish the type of life that I want to live in. And I knew something was missing. I didn't know what it was, but this really helps you get in touch with that and shows you a path to walking in an easier way, in a happier life, and it's just life-changing.
I'll admit the first one I did, I was a little bit surprised at how intense it was. And I don't think I gave myself enough processing time and space afterwards, so that's probably why. And I think because I unearthed some pretty heavy things that needed shifting. But having done it, I realized what a profound impact that memory, how charged that experience was. And I'd really discounted it. It was an experience that happened to me when I was 6 or 7, I figured out. But the emotional charge and the load, I just think of the emotional load that I have carried since then, and how that one experience had shaped how I worked. It shaped the relationships that I had, and it shaped who I was. I guess my whole lens in life had been shaped, I realized, through that one experience. So having done that and literally done the magic carpet ride and processed that, and then some of the subsequent magic carpet rides, the shifts were phenomenal. And I've done lots of work before. I've done some EFT work on some memories. I've done some past life regression work, and nothing seemed to make a difference as much as what this did.
So the magic carpet is something that I resisted for several weeks until I heard a couple of the other women on the live calls talking about their experiences. And I realized that there was really no need to be afraid. I don't know what I thought was going to come out, but I was really afraid. And so the first time I went through it, I was completely in my head, and I came to the live call knowing that. And then Suze just kind of like walked me through it and just gave me this sense of comfort and security, knowing that whatever's going to come up is what needs to come up. And so the second time I did it, I loved it. It helped me go back to a really peaceful place that I continue to go back to in my meditations and stuff. So that has had kind of a lasting impact. But just to go back to that place that I didn't know, I actually had, suppressed it, which is the point. But I had gone back to this place that when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, that I hadn't even remembered. And that conversation and going back to that time really changed the course of my relationships with certain people, and just identifying, the pattern that started in that one moment.
So the magic carpet was something so outside of the world that I have ever lived. I've never done any kind of meditations, let alone do a magic carpet. And I remember in the first time that I tried doing it, I was really getting stuck on feeling the feels. I wasn't feeling my feelings. Like nothing was really, like I was telling myself, like one of my triggers is feeling dismissed. And I'm like, all right, I want to bring up what that really feels like in my body. And I had a really hard time like making that surface. And so I was a little bit frustrated. I thought, this isn't working for me. But then I just closed my computer and I tried a different day. And I think that I just let myself go, and I just let myself just go through everything Susan was saying in the recording. And then it was like the most mind-blowing thing. I ended up crying my eyes out by the end of it in a good way. And I still, like, after one particular magic carpet ride that I did, I've done a few now, I have this like vivid image in my head of what my future is going to be like. And it's like, it has literally been like my anchor in some of the things that I have been doing ever since.
My experience with the magic carpet was really cool. I think that was honestly one of the best parts about the program. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but going into it and, doing the actual like guided portion of it, so many different things came up for me. That I was able to like identify and heal that were affecting me that I didn't even know were really like deep down affecting my life and the way that I perceive things. And so it's really just changed my outlook on life, I think. And it's also helped me move past a lot of the issues that I've been experiencing in a really easy way.
So the live calls were something that I really, I have to be honest, I wasn't really looking forward to, because I knew that it was going to be a situation where I had to be very vulnerable, and that is not a place that I feel comfortable. It's certainly not a place that I'm used to being, and especially when there was no this wasn't an in-person thing or a one-off thing where you can just like say your piece and get out and never be seen again. And I think that was really impactful, because in those moments where I'm either watching someone else get really vulnerable and share pieces of themselves, that really set the standard and set the tone for the rest of the weeks, but then allowing myself to get there. And I think one of my biggest breakthroughs happened as I was just like weeping openly on camera, but it wasn't even what I was talking about, which was really, was a big moment for me. It was the fact that I was able to kind of get to a place where I felt comfortable and was okay, because there was, a lot of what Suze does is, teaches you that it's okay to be vulnerable, and that's part of the process. And I love that I was, afterwards I was a little bit embarrassed. And then I came on the next call and everyone was like, oh my gosh, how is everything going? And it was just like this camaraderie, on the calls, but behind the scenes also, where people are messaging you to check in and see if you're doing okay. And, when you post on Facebook, they're liking it and sending you messages. And it was just a really nice support and connection that was built between strangers. And you're going to, to a place that is not comfortable, but that's why you go there. And that's why, the live calls, I would definitely recommend being on as many as you can, because there were moments, especially at the end, when I missed a couple that I really felt like I was out of the loop and was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm not caught up. And I really I have a genuine interest and care for these women that, what's going on in their lives. So I think the live calls, the program couldn't be the same without the connection and support of the women. And the live calls were, facilitated that really, really nicely.
I actually loved the group calls. And the reason I pause as I say that is I am someone who tends to sign up for courses and then not join the live calls, which is funny as a coach, because if people don't turn up to my live calls, I'm like, you're not getting the experience. But it's just kind of my personality. I often don't. And I just instantly, honestly, fell in love with the girls in my group call. And there was just something, I'm assuming it's who was attracted to the group, and all attracted at the same time. There's something in those group calls which does happen, because I lead groups and I see this every time, that we can feel it's just us, it's, just me going through this, etc. And when we'd get on these group calls and everyone was going, that's me. And I would sit there and watch other ladies, who maybe I did even kind of know already, etc., struggling with things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if you could see you how I see you. And then we'd start flicking each other messages and, oh my gosh, me too. And there was just something really magical about us all really actually thinking and struggling with exactly the same patterns, which breaks that down and you realize, oh, phew, it's not just me. You want to really highlight how safe I felt on the calls. And I think one thing, especially for entrepreneurs, anyone who might be similar to me, like their business is starting to grow and, you've got more eyes on you and people following, it can be really scary to go into a group environment because you don't want to share vulnerably what's going on. And honestly, Suze, just make that so clear and so fierce in many ways, like this is confidential. You never felt unsafe in the group. And I mean, not only just with her support, but the other ladies, I feel like there wasn't even that many calls, but we just became so close so quickly because of that trust and that confidentiality, and having a space like that. Like I said, especially as we grow our businesses, can get tougher.
And the calls, I loved getting down and dirty in the calls and being really vulnerable. Like having that space was so valuable.
Wow, the group, I have never been into groupie group things. I usually am sort of the one that's on the sidelines, and I'll chime in with my own experiences, but I've never really taken a lot of time to interact with anybody else. And every time that I got on the group calls, I felt just so safe. And I kept, every time one of the other smart, brilliant women that were on, every time they spoke, it's like I could see a little piece of myself in every single one of them. And I felt like we were just constantly a mirror to one another. And I felt so safe to just say everything that I needed to say. And I mean, there's not been another group that I have been in that has been like that. I mean, I've been in accountability groups, masterminds, and things like that. But this was different. It felt like we could go there with that intimacy within ourselves in such a way that it felt like a total judgment-free zone. And it made me go deeper within myself in the program, having these other ladies by my side.
The live calls and just the group in general was kind of the coolest part of the program, to kind of see the other people and other women that are going through the same things and hearing the things that they're struggling with almost made it like that much better. So I'm so excited that we got to do the live portion, because I got to hear other people struggling with some of the same things, or even identifying problems that I had that I didn't even really realize until they brought it up. And I'm like, oh God, yeah, I'm going through that too, you know? So it was kind of like a fast track to, I guess, to change and healing in ways that I wouldn't have discovered without other people. So the group portion and the calls were unbelievable.
Working with Suze was a very different experience for me. I am used to working with a lot of men specifically, just especially in the business arena, that it's filled with men, and the women that I deal with and that I work with are kind of in one of two camps. And it was really nice to meet someone kind of in the middle where I feel like I am, but I also aspire to be. And Suze is really that. She has a completely different approach, which I feel is very no nonsense, yet at the same time very feminine. And there is so much power in that. And it's something that, as I said, I aspire to be that. And so when I saw, I've always struggled to find kind of role models in the industry where I feel like, A, we would be friends, but B, they have something of real substantial value that I can really learn from. And when I saw Suze from the free training and then constantly throughout the live calls and throughout the process of the different weeks, it was really nice to see that, there was this real, raw, authentic, vulnerable side to her, but at the same time, just really strong and like standing in her power. And that's something that I think all women specifically need more of. And I think that we need more role models, better role models, and just people that are helping other women ahead. And she's really paving the way for that.
Working with Suze was awesome. Now, honestly, one of the reasons I signed up was because a lot of my peers and friends had raved about Suze, but I didn't know her. We'd never met. I'd heard of her name. And instantly, the minute I came into the course, I was like, oh, this is awesome, because she came from a similar background as me, like art direction, creative direction, like corporate, but also has these similar values, I guess, of doing the inner work and the journey.
Working with Susan exceeded all of my expectations. I've done lots of online courses and moderated by the provider, and I have very few instances have I had that much interaction with someone, and it wasn't, it was really heartfelt responses. Susan provided really in-depth very quick responses to anything that I posted in the Facebook group. And she really took the time to make sure that you had processed what it was and had responded exactly to your question. And sometimes I sought more clarification, and it was never an issue for Susan to come back in and re-clarify. We got video. I was shocked, getting video responses to questions, like really personal, detailed questions. And that was the bit that really surprised me. I hadn't expected that much interaction and that much support, and I think that made, or for me personally, that made such a huge
difference. Working with Suze has been absolutely refreshing. She is like, no matter what you're talking about, whatever rant you might be on or whatever, like sometimes I feel like I was in my own little pity party mode, and it's like she just has this such like grounded sense about her that she can like pull you back to being just like it's okay, Marie. And she just like pulls you out of this like little funk that you might be in, like with such ease and grace. and make like logic that makes such complete sense that you almost feel like, why didn't I think of that?
With Susan was honestly awesome. Like, she's one of my favorite people. Just listening to her wisdom and her feedback is really amazing. Like, you can tell it's coming from a whole other realm of consciousness, which is really cool. And it's just nice to feel so supported and connected and have somebody kind of walk you through the difficulties in your life and realizing weird, like we all have these and we're all these complete beings. So to have a partner like hold your hand and walk you back to like who you really are has been awesome.
I feel like I kind of teetered on the edge of like, is this for me? Is this not for me? And what really pushed me off was, had nothing to do with what was included. It was, does this feel right to me? Regardless of any kind of investment or who was going to be in the program or anything like that, it didn't matter. It was just, for me, the biggest transformation just happened in making that commitment to myself, to saying, yep, I am worth it. I do deserve this. And, I want to be around amazing women that are, taking a stand for themselves. And that's who I want to put myself in a room with.
For anyone who firstly is attracted to this conversation and way of working, like, trust that. If you're like me and I've already done a lot of work and a lot of courses and everything, like, there's always more to do. And what I loved about this is it was just a fresh lens that triggered things maybe from different angles that I'd looked at before, or kind of brought different things up. And
it is probably one of the best, if not the best, personal development program that I've done, and I have done quite a few. But the things that I unearthed and the changes that I made in a relatively short period of time have been absolutely enormous, and they've been profound. And while some of the work is challenging, I'll be completely transparent about that, the outcome and the clarity and what you gain from it is it's literally life-changing. And I get goosebumps saying that, because I can see how far I have come, and how much my life has changed through doing the work. It's a program that will literally change and shape your life, and I'd have no hesitation recommending it.
If you can go into this with an open mind, it will change your life. There's no ifs, ands, or but about it. If you are open to change and you're frustrated and you want something that will help you, this will help you. It can't not help you. I know not everything works for everyone, but there is something in this course that will change your life. So it's worth it. It's worth it.